Welcome to the PrepNet, presented every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Talk2Me's Channel 14. Come join us to discuss everything about prepping and hear what others have done. Before getting into bugging in, I wanted to address a few items from last week's net. Donna MT suggested including Granny from the senior living facility in testing your bug-out plan. Absolutely. Be sure to make your test as real-life as possible. If Granny is in a wheelchair, you need to practice using a wheelchair in your testing. Now, you don't need to put Granny in the wheelchair and take her along on your drive to your bug-out location unless she would like the drive. Instead, take a wheelchair, load it with 100 to 150 pounds, not Granny, and go through the steps of getting Granny from her room, out to the vehicle, put the fake Granny and wheelchair into the vehicle, and drive to your bug-out location. If Granny is not in a wheelchair but has a hard time walking, simulate this as best you can, leaving open space in the vehicle for the real Granny. Also, include the amount of time Granny would need to get her stuff ready to bug out. I know this sounds extreme, but you will find it takes longer than you think. Know this now and not then. The other thing I wanted to cover is, please don't just bug out, quote, somewhere. If you don't know where you will be going, you will not know what will be there to help you, and you will not know what things you will need to take with you. Again, please plan. Don't just wing it. Okay, what is bugging in? Bugging in means you are not getting out of Dodge. You will stay at your house and ride out the emergency there. You can look at it this way. Bugging in is you trying to figure out how not to leave your house. The advantages of bugging in are, you don't need to load your vehicle, and you don't need to drive to a bug-out location. All of your preps are already at your house, and you are in familiar surroundings. You'll be sleeping in your bed and cooking in your kitchen. As they say, you can survive or you can thrive. I chose thrive. I want the emergency to be a slight inconvenience, not a major problem. Bugging in will greatly reduce the amount of stress you have for that incident. You will recover faster than most. Your overall costs will be less. In my case, the pandemic was only an inconvenience, if that. The fact that store shelves were bare didn't affect us at all. Our lifestyle stayed the same. The most stressful thing was watching people on TV complain that things were so bad, while we just sat there, shaking our heads, enjoying our food stores and the comfort of our home. Now, with that said, you need to be sure you have mitigated any dangers you might encounter. If you can't mitigate a danger, you might want to bug out. Let's start with the electric grid. If the electric grid goes down, you could rely on a generator. You could go with solar instead of a generator. The next mitigation for the electric grid down could be a battery bank. We will cover more on the electric grid down in a future net entitled All About Electricity. You lose your water. What can you do? Have stored water on hand. The amount you stored will determine the length of time this mitigation will allow you to stay. Water stored in a cool place can last a long time. If you have a well and the grid goes down, you will not be able to pump water. You can connect that well to a generator or a solar battery bank to run a DC to AC inverter. Note that most of the deep well pumps need 240 volts, so we have a 240-volt split-phase DC to AC inverter that will run our wells. You could use a hand pump. You can either purchase a hand pump or you can build one using PVC pipe to pump water from your well. I have built a 100-foot PVC manual pump for one of my wells. You could get water from an open source like a lake, river, or stream. Be sure to purify it. We will cover more on a water interruption in a future net entitled All About Water. Now we have a supply chain interruption. You can no longer go to the store to buy the things as the shelves are empty. To mitigate this, you would need to stock up on all of the supplies you would normally need daily. This will be a large amount of stocking up. We will cover more on this in future nets entitled, What are the categories you need to consider when prepping, and what do you need to stock up on? Fuel for your gas or diesel-powered engines is not available, but you need to use those engines. This could be for your vehicle, a generator, a snowplow, or a tractor. You could store extra gas or diesel. However, here are a few things to consider. Check your local laws concerning the storage of gas and diesel to be sure you are complying with the law and safely storing it. Secondly, gas and diesel cannot be stored for long periods. You will either have to rotate them with your normal use or add stabilizers to them, which will still not make them last for long periods of time. We will cover more on this in a future net entitled All About Vehicles. The next mitigation is sanitation issues. The most likely cause would be loss of water. You will still be able to flush your toilet by pouring water in the bowl. However, this does require you to have stored water for this purpose. Find some gallon or larger containers that would not be usable for food or water. Fill them with water and use that water to flush. These could be plastic cat litter containers or other like containers. Why throw those away when you can use them for this? You could use a portable chemical or a compost toilet. The compost toilet could be a sawdust toilet, which is easy to build, use, and works very well. We will cover more on this in a future net entitled All About Sanitation. A civil unrest problem is more complicated and may require a bug out instead. To mitigate this, you would have to have a defensible location and a means to protect it. You might want to consider civil unrest as part of all of the above mitigations. Look at what happened during the mostly peaceful demonstrations we have seen in the last few years. There was looting, property damage, and personal injuries. Any of the above outages can escalate into civil unrest. Supply chain problems and loss of the electric grid will cause supply shortages and could escalate to civil unrest. With sanitation issues, people could become concerned with health. No access to water or fuel could also escalate to civil unrest. So, when mitigating any of the issues we have discussed here, remember, there could be a civil unrest component to each of our mitigations. We will cover more on this in a future net entitled All About Security. I do not doubt that there are more things you could mitigate, and some of those will be covered in future nets. My next topic was to be mitigating dangers. However, I think we have covered enough about mitigation so far. If you have any suggestions on mitigation topics we have not covered here, please send an email to prepnetch14@gmail.com. For you hams and military folks, phonetically, I say again, Papa, Romeo, Echo, Papa, November, Echo, Tango, Charlie, Hotel 14@gmail.com. Put suggestion, that's SUGGESTION in the subject line, and we will try to incorporate that into future nets. Please only submit suggestions for tonight's topic. Next week's topic will be assumptions.